She came home to explain. I wasn't there to hear it. I was sitting 3 blocks away in my truck, engine running, watching the porch light flicker against the drizzle. The same porch I fixed last summer with bare hands and splinters. She'd stood behind me that day with lemonade and a smile I thought was for me. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it hadn't been for a long time. I didn't wait for her to pull up. I already knew what kind of scene she was preparing to walk into. That coat she wore, dark green, fitted, flaring out around her hips like she was in some perfume ad. She buttoned it slow, thoughtful. Like she was gearing up for war but dressing for mercy. I knew the look. I'd seen it in the mirror once before a job interview I had no hope of getting. She walked up the steps like she owned the place. And to be fair, she always did. Her name was still on everything. Our house. Our bed. My spine. I knew she'd find the folded note on the counter. Just a single line in my handwriting. Don't bother explaining anything, you had to practice. I'd watched the footage the night before. I played it once. Then again. Then a third time with the sound on, even though I knew exactly what it would show. I had installed the small camera myself, tucked in a smoke detector, motion activated, no cloud sync. Just local storage. Because I wasn't ready to confront a possibility. I needed to confront evidence. It caught her letting him in. Not the kind of him that makes your blood boil with confusion, but the kind that freezes everything. He wasn't some shirtless gym rat or leather jacket cliché. He wore a tailored jacket, laughed softly like he belonged in our living room. Took his shoes off by the door. Ran his hand along the piano keys. He knew his way around. She didn't hesitate when he touched her waist. That's what did it for me. Not the kiss. Not the laughter. The ease of it. Her body remembered him. And when he whispered, "He's not home," and she smiled, God, that smile, and said, "He's never home when I need him," I knew it wasn't just infidelity. It was disdain. I built that house. Room by room. Wall by wall. I'd painted that living room while she picked colors and complained the samples were too safe. And now it was just a stage for her little betrayals. 3 days ago, I emptied the safe. Birth certificates. Titles. The USB drive with everything. I backed up my accounts. Canceled joint cards. I didn't say a word. I smiled at breakfast. I kissed her cheek when she left. I even said I loved her. Just to hear how false it sounded coming from my own lips. I packed a duffel. Just one. Not with much. Not because I was running, but because I wanted her to see it missing. Tonight was the night I left silence in my place. She came home ready to spin a story. Maybe tears. Maybe anger. Maybe gaslighting about how I've changed, about how she's felt unseen. But none of it would matter. I wasn't there to hear it. I watched from a distance as she stood in the living room, eyes darting toward the hallway like she expected me to step out any second. Maybe she rehearsed her lines out loud. Maybe she stood there in the silence, realizing how loud her betrayal really was without someone there to drown it in reason. The porch light flickered again. My phone buzzed. A text from her. "Where are you?" I didn't answer. Let her stand in that house she turned into a lie. Let her feel what it's like to be surrounded by everything she destroyed. I stayed in the truck until her car left again fast, like she couldn't stand the silence. She hadn't expected that. She expected rage, a scene, maybe begging. She expected me to break. She didn't expect nothing. That was the first real consequence she'd tasted. I drove for hours that night. Through suburbs soaked in sodium lights, past quiet diners with flickering open signs, down stretches of highway that didn't ask questions. I stopped in a little town with a motel that looked like it hadn't been cleaned since Clinton was in office. Paid in cash. Room 103. Everything smelled like smoke and cleaning spray. I didn't care. My phone buzzed nonstop. First, a flood of texts. "Where are you? Can we talk? I didn't want you to find out like this." Then came the missed calls. I didn't listen to the voicemails. I watched the notification count go up like it was a scoreboard for how deep she was willing to dig before switching tactics. Around 3 a.m. she texted, "I didn't want to hurt you. It just happened. I didn't mean for it to go this far." That was when I laughed. Out loud. The kind of bitter laugh that leaves your chest tight. She didn't mean for it to go that far? The man knew where the wine glasses were. He'd been in my kitchen, poured himself a drink like it was routine. You don't just accidentally remember where someone keeps their Merlot. You don't accidentally unbutton your blouse in a house filled with wedding photos. No, she meant for all of it. She just didn't mean to get caught. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was shattered. I'd already done my mourning over the past few weeks in pieces. Every lie was a small death. Every late meeting, every distant kiss, every moment she looked through me instead of at me, I'd buried something each time. By sunrise, I wasn't crying. I was clear. Clearer than I'd been in months. At 6:45 a.m. she sent another message. I'm sorry. Please come home so we can talk. I need to explain. It wasn't what you think. I stared at the screen like it was a puzzle in a language I didn't understand. Not what I think. Was she still trying that? She knew. She knew I saw them. She just didn't know how much I'd seen. I didn't respond. I packed up, dropped the motel key in the slot, and drove to my brother Nathan's place in Ridgewood. Nathan didn't ask questions. He opened the door in boxers and a hoodie, looked at my face, then stepped aside. You want coffee or silence? Silence, I said. He nodded and went back to his couch. That's the thing about brothers. They know when you're breaking but don't force you to say it. By noon, I had a lawyer. Quiet, professional, direct. She asked me if I had evidence. I said yes. She didn't flinch when I said I wanted out fast, clean, and without a single concession more than she was legally owed. She said, "You sure this isn't just a reaction?" I looked her dead in the eye and said, "She's been reacting to another man for weeks. I'm just catching up." That night, I finally listened to the voicemails. The first was frantic. The second was softer. The third? Cold. If you're just going to ignore me, then maybe we don't need to talk at all. There she was. The real Emily. No apology. No remorse. Just fury that she wasn't in control anymore. I deleted every message. That night, I slept better than I had in months. The morning after I deleted her voicemails, I woke up on Nathan's pull-out couch to the smell of burnt toast and cheap diner coffee. He slid a mug toward me without a word, flipping the sports page like it mattered. It didn't. Not that day. I sat up, spine aching from the lumpy mattress, and checked my phone out of habit. One message. Just one. So this is how you handle things? Ghosting your wife. Wife. That word stung differently now. Felt like it belonged to someone else's story, not mine. Not anymore. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened the cloud drive where I'd stored the security footage and rewatched the part one hadn't let myself focus on before. Right after she and her guest, I knew his name now, Russell, sat on the couch. That's when she started talking. Not to him. About me. You know what the worst part is, she said, swirling wine like it was just another Tuesday. He still tries. Brings me flowers. Random dinners. He thinks I don't notice how hard he's trying. It's pathetic. Russell didn't say anything. He just pulled her closer. She laughed. Laughed like she was remembering something stupid I did. Sometimes I pretend to be asleep just so he won't try to kiss me. I mean, come on. Click. I paused the footage there. I had seen enough. I didn't feel rage. I felt cold. Efficient. Like a surgeon about to cut out something rotten. I called my lawyer again. We fast-tracked the papers. I wanted her served by the end of the week. That afternoon, I went back to the house. She was at work or wherever the hell she went these days. I walked through the rooms like I was visiting a museum of my own failure. Every photo, every book, every throw pillow she insisted we needed to make it feel like home, they all felt like props in a play I didn't audition for. I took my toolbox, my guitar, a box of clothes, and the keepsakes that mattered. Our wedding album stayed on the shelf. Let her explain that one to her next guest. Before I left, I took one last look around the bedroom. That used to be our place of quiet, of closeness. Now, I couldn't step in without feeling like I was trespassing in someone else's game. As I locked the door behind me, my phone buzzed again. We need to talk. You're blowing this way out of proportion. She was unraveling. Shifting gears from guilt to gaslight. I recognized the rhythm now. Step 1, deny. Step 2, deflect. Step 3, diminish. But I was done dancing to her beat. I left her house, no, my former house, with one thought: she's about to learn what silence really sounds like. Not the silence of a guilty conscience. The silence of someone who's finally done pretending. That night, she showed up at Nathan's. I knew she would. I parked my truck down the block to watch. She banged on the door like it owed her an apology. Nathan opened it, half asleep again. I need to talk to him, she snapped. Nathan didn't flinch. He doesn't need to talk to you. He's my husband, she hissed, loud enough for the neighbors. No, he said slow. He was. She stood there, fists clenched, like the world had betrayed her by not playing along. Then she turned and stormed off, heels stabbing the pavement, hair bouncing like a bad movie ending. And for the first time since it all began, I smiled. Not because it was over, but because I knew she couldn't rewrite the ending. The divorce papers were delivered 2 days later. I made sure they arrived mid-morning, right after her usual cold brew run and before her fake work Zoom calls. I imagined her sitting there in her curated little home office, sunlight spilling through the window onto the couch where she let him put his hands on her. Then the knock at the door. The envelope. The look on her face. I didn't need to be there to enjoy that moment. Within an hour, she was calling. I let it ring. Again. Again. 6 missed calls. Then a text. Are you serious? You're going to end this without even talking to me like an adult. Like an adult. That line nearly made me laugh again. Adults don't invite strangers into their homes when their husband is working overtime to keep the lights on. Adults don't lie about friends they haven't seen in months. Adults don't humiliate the person who would have walked through fire for them just because they got bored. I sent one message back. We talked. You just weren't listening. No response. 4 hours. Then came the long one. She always did this, waited until she could wrap her guilt in a ribbon, make herself the victim of her own mess. I know you're hurt, but you blindsiding me with this is cruel. You're being cold and vindictive and I don't recognize you anymore. We've had problems, yes, but we should be working through them, not running away. I made a mistake, but we both made this mess. Ah, there it was. The shared blame. The co-authored destruction. Classic Emily. I didn't reply. Instead, I spent that evening with Nathan and his wife, Lauren. We ordered pizza, watched a terrible action movie, and for the first time in a long time, I laughed without bitterness riding shotgun. I almost forgot how easy that used to be just being without walking on emotional landmines. But that peace didn't last long. The next day, I got an email from Russell. Yes, him. It was short, polite, creepy. Hey man, I know this is awkward. I just want to say I didn't mean for things to go down this way. Emily told me you guys were separated when we started seeing each other. I didn't want to be part of anything messy. I hope you find peace and move forward. No hard feelings. I stared at that email like it was written in another language. No hard feelings? I didn't respond. He didn't deserve the dignity of my anger. Let him keep thinking he was just some guy caught in the wrong timing. Let her keep telling him lies if that made her feel better about what she did. Later that evening, I checked our joint bank account. She had withdrawn $3,200. Labeled it as personal expense. No note. No heads up. No shame. I froze for a second, then called the bank and had the account frozen. I'd already opened a new one in my name. She called within minutes. You froze the account. I needed that money. You needed to buy a conscience, I said, but here we are. You're being petty, she snapped. This is exactly why I hung up. She called again. Voicemail. Fine. If this is how you want to play it, I'll see you in court. And just like that, the mask dropped. No more apologies. No more per misunderstood wife. Just venom. Good. I preferred it that way. Easier to walk away when the monster stops pretending it's human. 3 days passed without a single call. No texts. No emails. The silence was loud, but it didn't feel empty, it felt earned. And then, like clockwork, she reappeared. A knock at Nathan's door. Not frantic this time. Not angry. Just theatrical. Nathan looked through the peephole, then back at me on the couch. It's her. I didn't move. You want me to tell her to F.A.? I'll handle it. She stood there like a woman auditioning for sympathy. No makeup. Hoodie way too big for her frame, sleeves over her hands like a teenager pretending to be fragile. Her eyes widened when she saw me like I was the one intruding. I just want to talk, she said. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. The wind was sharp. Her voice was soft. I don't understand how we got here, she said, blinking fast. Don't, I warned. I'm serious, she insisted. 1 minute we're laughing, the next you're filming me in our home like I'm some criminal. You are, I said. You just don't wear stripes. She flinched. It wasn't like that. I didn't mean for it to happen. Stop saying that, I snapped. You planned it. You brought him into my house. Into our bed. Her mouth opened, closed. No defense. Just that hollow silence she always used when words could only bury her deeper. I thought we were over, she whispered. You never said that. You never listened. I laughed short and humorless. You never talked. We stood there, the cold settling into my bones while she pretended to feel something. You're really going to throw away 6 years? She asked. I tilted my head. You already did. That's when the mask slipped again. She looked at me like I was dirt on her shoe. You think this makes you noble? You're just bitter because someone else saw what you couldn't give me. There it was. The poison. I stepped closer, lowered my voice. He saw what I built. What I bled for. He didn't see you. He saw an easy thrill. And now he's stuck with someone who doesn't even flinch when she lies. Her jaw clenched. You think you're better than me? No, I said. I just think I'm done pretending you were ever good for me. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She just turned around, walked down the steps, and didn't look back. That was the last time I saw her face in person. Back inside, Nathan didn't ask what happened. He just handed me the remote, pressed play on the movie we'd paused. Something about that moment, the ease of it, the return to normalcy, felt more like closure than anything she could have said. Because the truth is, some endings don't come with tears. Some come with relief. A week passed. The silence held. It wasn't peace exactly. It was more like the aftermath of a storm, branches still scattered, air still heavy, but the sky refusing to weep. I went back to work. I smiled when I had to. I answered texts from people who just heard and were so sorry. I told them I was fine. Some of them believed me. One night, Lauren, Nathan's wife, asked gently if I'd be okay staying longer. "You've got a place here as long as you need." I nodded. Grateful. Tired. That night, I laid awake staring at the ceiling, thinking about how fast love can rot when you stop feeding it honesty. And then I realized something I hadn't dared to admit. I wasn't mourning her. I was mourning who I thought she was. There's a difference. But the storm wasn't done. 3 days later, I got a letter from her attorney. A counter. She wanted the house. Not half. The whole thing. She claimed emotional investment, that I had abandoned her without discussion, that she was entitled to the residence due to emotional hardship. I read that last part twice. Emotional hardship. From the woman who sat on my couch with another man and laughed about how pathetic I was. I sent it to my lawyer with one note: burn it. She called me an hour later. "I'll handle it." She's bluffing. She's fishing. But I knew Emily. She wasn't fishing. She was flailing, trying to grab anything as the walls started to close in. A few days later, I bumped into one of her old friends, Molly, at the grocery store. She gave me that awkward, half-pity smile that people use when they've heard everything and don't know where to stand. "I'm sorry, Jackson," she said. "I didn't know it was that bad." "It was worse," I said without thinking. She hesitated. "She's been saying some things. That you were cold, controlling, that she didn't feel safe emotionally." I looked at her. Really looked. And Molly's face told me everything. She didn't believe Emily. Not really. But she wanted me to explain it anyway. To counter. To perform. I didn't. I just said, tell her next time she lies, make it believable. And I walked away. That night, I found myself going through old photos. Not of us. Of me. From before her. I saw my face in those pictures, simpler, younger, lighter. I missed that guy. He laughed more. Trusted more. Dreamed bigger. I didn't want her back. I wanted him back. So I made a list. Not of goals. Not resolutions. Just reminders. You weren't crazy. You weren't too much. You loved her the best you knew how. She made her choices. So now you make yours. The next morning, I submitted the paperwork to sell the house. I'd split the equity clean, minus what she stole from the joint account. My lawyer approved it. Her lawyer tried to stall it. Didn't matter. It was happening. She called me that evening. Her voice was tired. "Hello. I got the papers." "Good. You're really doing this?" "I already did." She was quiet. "Then, he's gone." I didn't ask who. Then, he never wanted anything real. He thought this was just some fling. Still, I said nothing. Then, I was stupid. And finally, "I miss you." I could have screamed. Could have unloaded every ounce of rage she'd earned. But I didn't. Instead, I said the calmest truth I'd ever spoken. "No, Emily. You miss control." And I hung up. The day the house went on the market, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt like someone had removed a splinter I'd been too scared to dig out. There was no celebration, just a kind of breath I hadn't taken in years. Emily tried once more. This time it was a letter. Not a digital message. Not a voicemail. A real letter, folded neatly and slid under Nathan's front door like she was sneaking in one last chapter of a story she no longer had the pen for. It was 4 pages long. The handwriting was clean. Careful. She'd taken her time with this one. Probably thought it would be more meaningful, more powerful than a text. She started with a memory. Remember that trip to Asheville? The cabin with the bad heater and the fireplace that never worked. Yeah, I remembered. I remembered chopping wood with frozen fingers while she stayed inside drinking wine, wrapped in a blanket, complaining about the lack of cell service. I remembered thinking we were just having a rough patch. I didn't know then that rough would be our baseline. Then she shifted into regret. I don't know why I became so bitter. Maybe I got scared. Maybe I thought you'd stop loving me, so I pushed first. Push. That's what she called it. Like betrayal was a gentle nudge, not a full-on shove off a cliff. She tried to say I changed. That I stopped seeing her. That I made her feel invisible. What she never mentioned, what she never dared to admit, was how she chose to fix that feeling by wrapping herself around someone else instead of speaking to the one man who would have done anything to fix it with her. Then came the twist. I still believe there's something between us worth saving. She was still playing the long con. Still pretending this was salvageable. Still mistaking forgiveness for weakness. I folded the letter back up, slid it into the bottom drawer of Nathan's filing cabinet, and left it there. Unread past page 1. Not because I didn't care, but because I cared once. And that was enough. A week later, the house sold. The buyer was a young couple. Newlyweds. Bright-eyed. Happy. I left them a note in the kitchen drawer. This house holds a lot. If you're lucky, it'll hold you together. If not, let it teach you something before it breaks you apart. The same day, I moved into a small place across town. 2 bedrooms. 1 guitar. No ghosts. That evening, Nathan helped me carry the last box in. He looked around, took a deep breath. You feel different, he said. I did. I was. Later that night, I opened a bottle of bourbon, sat on the porch, and let the silence stretch long enough to feel full again. Emily was gone. Not just physically. Not just legally. She was finally gone from my mind. And I realized something that surprised me. I didn't hate her. I pitied her. Because I would heal. But she would carry herself forever. The divorce was finalized in mid-December. I signed the last document while it was snowing outside. Not the heavy kind, not dramatic, just thin white flakes drifting like they didn't know where to land. Fitting, I thought. That's what letting go felt like. Light. Quiet. I didn't go out to celebrate. There was no champagne. No shouting to the sky. Instead, I went home to my new apartment with its bare walls and untouched coffee table and sat in the center of the floor surrounded by silence that didn't accuse me of being distant or cold or insufficient. My lawyer called to confirm everything was filed and sealed. You're done, she said. She was wrong. I wasn't done. I was just beginning. The months that followed were strange. There were days when I'd catch myself setting 2 plates for dinner. Days when I reached for my phone to text her something meaningless, something stupid like a meme or a photo of a weird cloud. Habits don't break easily. Not when they're carved deep over 6 years. But I never sent the texts. And slowly, I started sleeping through the night. I reconnected with people I hadn't seen in years, old friends who drifted when I started orbiting around Emily's moods like a damn satellite. They welcomed me back with grins and beers and awkward, quiet moments of so what happened? I never gave details. She didn't deserve to live in those spaces anymore. Instead, I focused on rediscovery. I joined a weekend hiking group. I picked up my guitar again. I even tried painting badly. There was something comforting about being terrible at something just for the joy of doing it. Emily would have scoffed, called it a waste of time, said I should use my energy better. But she wasn't here to interrupt anymore. Then, in early March, I saw her. Not up close, just across the street, downtown, near a bookstore we used to visit. She was with someone. Not Russell. Not anyone I recognized. She was laughing. For a second, I felt it, the pang. The hollow punch in the gut. But then it passed. Because her laugh didn't sound like the one I used to love. It sounded forced. Mechanical. Like someone trying to remember how joy worked. She didn't see me. And I didn't want her to. I turned, walked the opposite direction, and didn't look back. That night, I lit a fire in my tiny apartment fireplace and made a list. Not reminders this time, but truths. I survived betrayal without becoming bitter. I learned silence can be stronger than screaming. I discovered that losing someone who lied is a kind of freedom. I am not what she said I was. I am still here, still whole. I went to bed that night with nothing waiting for me in the dark. And that, more than anything, was the win. Spring came early. The city felt softer somehow. Maybe it was the weather, maybe it was me. I found myself walking more. No destination, no urgency. Just a pair of boots and streets I used to ignore when my life was tighter, more scripted. There was something healing about being part of the world without trying to control any of it. One Saturday, I passed a small market. They were selling used books for $1 each. I flipped through the crates, no real intention to buy, until I found a copy of the things they carried. Worn cover, pages marked with someone else's underlines. I smiled. Emily hated that book. Called it overrated the first time I read it aloud on our porch. She said the stories felt scattered. Said she didn't get why anyone would carry that much pain around voluntarily. I never told her the weight wasn't voluntary. It was memory. And memory has a way of sticking even when the person who gave it to you is gone. I bought the book. That night I read it again, page by page. I felt every sentence differently now. Less as a story, more as a quiet reminder of survival, of enduring without bitterness. And just as I was closing the back cover, my phone buzzed. It was her. Emily. A name I hadn't seen on my screen in nearly 3 months. Just one message. Are you really happy? No hello. No explanation. No context. I stared at it. Thought about ignoring it. Thought about responding with something cold and clean. But I didn't type a single word. Instead, I locked the phone and left it face down on the table. Because here's the truth. The moment you start questioning someone else's happiness, it's because you've already lost your own. I didn't respond. She followed it up the next day. You didn't even answer. Still, I said nothing. And then came the voicemail. Her voice, soft, uncertain. I just thought maybe we could talk. Not like before. Just as people. I know I ruined everything. I know. But I still remember the sound of your laugh. And how you always tried. Even when I didn't. There was a pause. A breath. I don't know. I guess I just wanted to hear from you. That voicemail didn't hurt me. Freed me. Because she finally said it. What I already knew. She remembered what I was. She missed it. And now she'd never have it again. I deleted the message. That night, I played my guitar for an hour straight. Just me, the strings, and the open window. And I realized, you don't need revenge when they haunt themselves better than you ever could. It's been almost a year now. A year since I walked out of the house I built with my own hands. A year since she stood there thinking I'd crumble under the weight of her betrayal. A year since I decided silence would speak louder than any scream. Sometimes people ask me if I've moved on. If I've found someone new. As if the end of one thing demands the start of another. Here's the truth. I found someone. He's quiet, focused, tired but still fighting. He makes coffee slowly in the morning and reads books with bent spines. He hikes without music, cooks without recipes, and has learned how to smile without anyone else in the room. He's me, and he's better than he's ever been. I don't know where Emily is now. I don't care. She became a story, a closed chapter, a woman who burned a bridge and thought she could swim her way back. But some rivers are too deep, too cold, and not worth crossing again. I did see Russell once. Funny how small the world gets when you stop trying to escape it. He was at a bar I used to frequent. Alone, hunched over a beer, checking his phone like he was waiting on someone who'd already left the building. I didn't approach him. He looked like a man who thought he won something once. He didn't. I paid my tab and left before he saw me. Because healing doesn't need a witness. It's not for them. It's for you. The final thing I'll say, the thing I want anyone reading this to understand, is this. You can love someone completely and still walk away. You can give your soul, your effort, your years, and still be allowed to leave when they spit on it all. You are not required to bleed just because someone else is hungry. Let them starve. Let them call it cruelty if it helps them sleep. But don't you dare return just because they remember your warmth when winter comes. Close the door. Turn off the lights. Lock the chapter. Live. And if you ever find yourself staring into the abyss of someone's betrayal, wondering how you'll survive it, know this, you already have.